Harper's hands froze on the coffee pot when she heard the little girl's voice pierce through the silent restaurant. "No! I want her!" Every head in the room turned. The small girl with dark curls broke free from her father's hand and ran, not toward the three elegant women in designer dresses standing by the private table, but straight toward Harper in her stained waitress uniform. Harper's heart stopped as the child wrapped tiny arms around her legs. She looked up to see him, Gabriel Cassano, the man whose name made grown men tremble. His steel-gray eyes locked on hers, and in that moment everything changed. Behind him, a dozen men in black suits stood frozen. This wasn't supposed to happen. The daughter of the most powerful man in the city had just chosen a broke waitress over socialites worth millions. If you want to know how this impossible moment happened and what came after, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Every view helps bring more stories like this one. Now let's go back to where it all began. Harper Quinn had exactly $47 in her bank account when Gabriel Cassano walked into Mike's diner for the first time. She was wiping down table 6, the one with the wobbly leg she'd learned to avoid, when the bell above the door chimed. The sound wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the silence that followed. Harper looked up and felt the air change. 6 men in black suits entered first, their eyes scanning every corner, every exit, every face. Then he walked in. Tall, impossibly handsome, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her yearly rent. Dark hair, sharp jawline, and eyes the color of storm clouds. But it wasn't his looks that made Harper's stomach tighten. It was the way everyone in the diner immediately looked away, the way Mike's hand trembled as he reached for a menu. Everyone knew who Gabriel Cassano was. Everyone except Harper, apparently, because she did the one thing no one else dared to do. She walked straight up to him. "Table for—" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Those grey eyes landed on her, and Harper forgot how to breathe. He studied her for a long moment, and she became painfully aware of the coffee stain on her uniform, the frayed edge of her apron, the fact that her sneakers had a hole in the left toe. "7, he said. His voice was deep, commanding. "Private section." "We don't have a private section," Harper replied honestly. "But booth 12 in the back is the quietest." One of his men stepped forward, looking annoyed. "Do you know who—" Gabriel raised one hand, and the man immediately fell silent. "Booth 12 works." As Harper led them to the back, she felt his eyes on her. It made her skin prickle with awareness. She'd never been looked at like that before, like she was simultaneously invisible and the only person in the room. "Coffee?" she asked when they were settled. "Espresso, double." She nodded and turned to leave, but a small voice stopped her. "Can I have hot chocolate?" Harper looked down and her heart clenched. A little girl, no more than 5 years old, sat beside Gabriel. She had his dark hair and those same intense eyes, but where his were cold and calculating, hers were sad, deeply, heartbreakingly sad. "Of course, sweetie," Harper said, crouching down to the girl's level. "With marshmallows." The girl's eyes widened slightly. "You have marshmallows?" "The best ones, big and fluffy." Harper smiled. "What's your name?" "Stella." "That's a beautiful name." "I'm Harper." "Like the bird?" For the first time, something like curiosity flickered in those sad eyes. "Exactly like the bird." Harper glanced up at Gabriel, who was watching the exchange with an unreadable expression. "I'll be right back with your drinks." In the kitchen, Harper's hands shook as she prepared the espresso. Mike grabbed her arm. "Do you have any idea who that is?" he hissed. "A customer. That's Gabriel Cassano. He runs half the city. People who cross him disappear." Harper's stomach dropped, but she forced herself to stay calm. "Well, he's not going to make me disappear for bringing him coffee." When she returned with the tray, she noticed Stella had moved closer to the window, staring out at the rain. Harper set the espresso in front of Gabriel, then carried the hot chocolate to Stella. "Here you go, sweetie. I added extra marshmallows." Stella looked at the mug, then up at Harper. "My mama used to make it like this." The words hung in the air. Past tense. Used to. Harper's chest tightened. She had good taste then. "She's gone now," Stella whispered. "Papa says she's not coming back." Harper didn't know what to say. She glanced at Gabriel and saw something crack in his expression, just for a second, before that cold mask slammed back into place. "Stella," he said quietly, "drink your chocolate." The little girl obeyed, but Harper noticed how her small hands wrapped around the mug, like it was the only warm thing in her world. For the next hour, Harper tried to stay busy with other tables, but her eyes kept drifting back to booth 12. Gabriel made phone calls in Italian, sharp, commanding words she didn't understand. His men stood guard, never sitting, never relaxing. But Stella just stared out the window, barely touching her hot chocolate. It was heartbreaking. When Harper brought the check, Gabriel handed her a black credit card without looking at the amount. As she processed it, Stella tugged on her father's sleeve. "Papa, can we come back?" she asked softly. Gabriel's jaw tightened. "We'll see, Piccola." "But the marshmallows—" Harper's heart broke a little more. She made a decision that was probably stupid but felt necessary. "You can come back any time, Stella. I work every day except Sundays." Those grey eyes snapped up to Harper's face. Gabriel looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time, really seeing her. There was something dangerous in that look, something that made Harper's pulse race. "Every day," he repeated slowly. "Every day," Harper confirmed, meeting his gaze even though everything in her screamed to look away. A strange silence stretched between them. Then Gabriel stood, buttoning his suit jacket. He was even taller up close, and Harper had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "What's your full name?" he asked. "Harper Quinn." He nodded once, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a stack of bills. He placed them on the table, hundreds, at least 5 of them, and Harper's eyes widened. "The bill was only for the extra marshmallows," he cut her off. His voice was softer now, almost gentle, "and for being kind to my daughter." Before Harper could protest, he placed a hand on Stella's shoulder and guided her toward the door. The little girl looked back once, waving shyly. Harper waved back, her mind spinning. As the black SUVs pulled away from the diner, Mike appeared at her side. "You just caught the attention of the most dangerous man in the city," he said quietly. "I hope you know what you're doing." Harper stared at the $500 on the table, then out the window where the rain was washing away the tire tracks. She didn't know what she was doing, but something told her that her life had just changed forever, and she was right. Gabriel Cassano returned to the diner exactly 3 days later. Harper was in the middle of the lunch rush when the door opened and that familiar silence descended. This time, she was ready. Or at least she thought she was. "Booth 12?" she asked when he approached. "Booth 12, he confirmed. Stella was with him again, and this time the little girl's face lit up when she saw Harper. "You remembered," she exclaimed. "You said you'd be here." "I never break my promises," Harper said, smiling. "Hot chocolate with extra marshmallows?" "Yes, please." As Harper prepared their drinks, her hands were steadier this time. She'd spent the last 3 days trying not to think about Gabriel Cassano, which meant she'd thought about him constantly. Those eyes, that voice, the way he'd looked at her like she was a puzzle he needed to solve. When she brought their order, Stella was drawing on a paper napkin with a crayon someone had left behind. She looked up at Harper hopefully. "Can you sit with us? Just for a minute?" Harper glanced at Gabriel, expecting him to refuse. But instead, he gestured to the empty seat across from him. "Please." It wasn't a request, it was a command wrapped in politeness. Harper slid into the booth, hyper-aware of how close his hand was to hers on the table. He wore a silver watch that probably cost more than her car. A tattoo peeked out from under his shirt collar, dark script in what looked like Italian. "Stella has been talking about you," Gabriel said. His eyes never left Harper's face. "Constantly." "I like her," Stella announced, pushing her drawing across the table. It was a stick figure with yellow hair, Harper, she realized, holding hands with a smaller stick figure. "She's nice. She doesn't look at me like I'm broken." Harper's throat tightened. "You're not broken, sweetie. Everyone else thinks I am." Stella's voice was matter-of-fact, devastating in its simplicity. "Because I don't talk much anymore. Because I get sad." Gabriel's jaw clenched, and Harper saw the flash of pain in his eyes before he buried it. This man, this dangerous, powerful man, was drowning in helplessness when it came to his daughter's grief. "Sometimes being sad is okay," Harper said gently. "It means you loved someone very much. That's not broken, that's brave." Stella stared at her for a long moment, then burst into tears. Before Harper could react, the little girl had climbed out of her seat and into Harper's lap, wrapping small arms around her neck. Harper froze, unsure what to do. She looked at Gabriel, expecting anger or disapproval. Instead, she saw something that made her breath catch. Vulnerability. Raw, unguarded vulnerability. "She hasn't cried in 6 months," he said quietly. "The therapist said It would be good if she did, that she's been holding it in. Harper instinctively wrapped her arms around Stella, rocking her gently as the little girl sobbed into her shoulder. "It's okay, baby. Let it out. I've got you." And she did. For 20 minutes, Harper held this child she barely knew while she cried for the mother she'd lost. Gabriel sat across from them, and when Harper looked up, she saw his hands were clenched into fists like he was fighting his own battle not to break. When Stella finally calmed down, she refused to leave Harper's lap. She just sat there, thumb in her mouth, staring at nothing while Harper rubbed small circles on her back. "I'm sorry," Gabriel said. His voice was rough. I didn't mean for this to happen." "Don't apologize," Harper replied firmly. "She needed this. You're good with her." It wasn't a question, but Harper answered anyway. "I like kids. I always have. You have your own?" "No." Harper smiled sadly. "Never got that far. Life took other turns." Gabriel studied her with those intense eyes. "Harper Quinn, 26 years old, working 2 jobs to pay off student loans from a nursing degree you never finished, no family in the city, no boyfriend, lives alone in a studio apartment in Riverside." Harper's blood ran cold. "How do you—" "I make it my business to know about people who interact with my daughter," he said simply. "Don't be afraid. I'm not going to hurt you. That's not reassuring coming from you." The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. "No, I suppose it isn't." Stella stirred in Harper's arms. "Can Harper come home with us, Papa? Piccola, please?" Those big eyes turned to her father, desperate and hopeful. "Just for a little while?" Gabriel looked at Harper, and she saw him make a decision. "What if Harper came to work for us? Just a few hours a week, to spend time with you?" Harper blinked. "What? I'll pay you triple what you make here. You'd be Stella's companion. Helper, whatever she needs. You want to hire me as a nanny. I want to hire you as someone my daughter trusts." His voice dropped lower. "Someone who doesn't look at her like she's broken." Harper's mind raced. This was insane. This man was dangerous. Everyone said so. But when she looked down at Stella, who was watching her with such hope, such desperate hope, she felt something shift in her chest. "I still need to keep my job here," she heard herself say. "I can't afford to quit." "You won't need to work here anymore." "Yes, I will." Harper met his eyes. "Because if this doesn't work out, I need something to fall back on. And because I don't take charity." Something flickered in his expression. Respect, maybe. Stubborn. Practical. 3 afternoons a week, he countered. "After your shift here, I'll send a car. I can drive myself. Riverside to my home is 40 minutes through dangerous neighborhoods. I'll send a car." His tone left no room for argument. "Yes or no, Harper Quinn?" She should say no. Everything rational in her screamed to say no. "Yes," she whispered instead. Stella squealed with delight and hugged Harper tighter, and when Harper looked up, she found Gabriel watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Intense, searching, almost hungry. "Welcome to the family," he said softly. Those words should have felt like a joke. They didn't. They felt like a promise. And promises, Harper was learning, were dangerous things in Gabriel Cassano's world. 2 months later, Harper had become part of Stella's life in a way she'd never expected. 3 afternoons a week turned into 5, then 6. Gabriel's mansion was massive, all marble and modern art and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. But Stella's favorite place was the garden, where she and Harper would draw with sidewalk chalk or hunt for ladybugs or build fairy houses out of twigs. The little girl was blooming. She smiled now, laughed sometimes, still had sad days, but they were fewer and further between. And Gabriel. Gabriel was becoming a problem. Harper tried to keep her distance from him, tried to remember he was her employer. Nothing more. But it was impossible. He was always there, watching from his office window as she played with Stella, joining them for dinner, appearing in doorways with that intense gaze that made her heart race. He never touched her, never said anything inappropriate, but the tension between them was a living thing, electric and dangerous. On a Friday evening in late September, everything changed. Harper was in the kitchen helping Stella make chocolate chip cookies when Gabriel entered, followed by 3 women Harper had never seen before. They were stunning, tall, elegant, wearing clothes that screamed money. One was a platinum blonde in a designer dress. Another was a redhead with perfect makeup. The third had dark hair swept into an elaborate updo. Stella, Gabriel said, his voice careful. Piccola, come here. Stella looked up from the cookie dough, confused. Harper felt her stomach twist with unease. What's going on? The little girl asked. Gabriel crouched down to her level, and Harper saw something in his expression that broke her heart. He looked lost, desperate. I've been thinking about what you need, what we both need. So I've invited some very nice ladies to meet you. They're all interested in being part of our family. Stella's eyes widened. What do you mean? I mean, Gabriel said slowly, that you can choose. If you like one of them, she could become your new mother. The words landed like bombs in the quiet kitchen. Harper's hands froze in the cookie dough. This couldn't be happening. He was seriously asking his 5-year-old daughter to choose a replacement mother from a lineup of women. Papa. No. Stella's voice was small, frightened. It's okay, Piccola, just meet them. Talk to them, see if you like anyone. Gabriel stood and gestured to the 3 women. This is Veronica. She's an art curator. This is Diane. She owns several businesses. And this is Katerina. No! Stella's voice rose to a shout. I don't want them. Stella, you haven't even... I don't want a new mom. Tears were streaming down her face now. I want... Harper started to move toward her, but Gabriel held up a hand. Let her choose, Harper. It was the first time he'd ever used her first name without any formality, the first time his voice had held that note of pleading. The 3 women stepped forward, all fake smiles and carefully practiced warmth. Veronica knelt down. Hello, sweetheart. I love art just like you. We could paint together. Go away, Stella screamed. Diane tried next. I have a house in the Hamptons. We could go there in the summer. I don't want you. Katerina didn't even get a word out before Stella ran. She didn't run to her room like everyone expected. She didn't run to Gabriel. She ran straight to Harper and wrapped her arms around Harper's legs, sobbing into her flower-covered jeans. I want Harper, she cried. Papa, I want Harper to be my mum. Please, please, I don't want anyone else. The room fell absolutely silent. Harper's heart stopped. She looked down at this little girl clinging to her, then up at Gabriel. His face had gone pale, his eyes wide with shock. The 3 women looked insulted, angry, confused. Stella, that's not... Harper isn't... Gabriel's voice trailed off. She is, Stella insisted, her small hands fisting in Harper's clothes. She reads me stories. She knows how I like my marshmallows. She doesn't get mad when I'm sad. She's the one I want, Papa. Her. Harper couldn't move, couldn't breathe. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was just the hired help. She had no business being part of this family, no matter how much she'd grown to love Stella over the past 2 months. Love. Oh, God. She'd fallen in love with this child. Young lady, Veronica said coldly, you can't just choose the help. Don't. Gabriel's voice cut through the room like a blade. His eyes were on Harper now, only on Harper, and the intensity in them made her knees weak. Don't finish that sentence. He walked toward them slowly, and Harper couldn't read his expression. Was he angry? Disappointed? When he reached them, he knelt down beside Stella. Piccola, he said gently, Harper has her own life, her own dreams. You can't just... Does she want to leave? Stella hiccuped. Harper, do you want to leave me? And there it was. The question that changed everything. Harper looked down at those tear-stained cheeks, those desperate eyes. She thought about going back to her empty studio apartment. Thought about never seeing Stella's smile again, never hearing her laugh. Thought about never being in this house, never being near. Her eyes lifted to Gabriel's. He was watching her like she held his entire world in her hands. Maybe she did. No, Harper whispered. I don't want to leave. Then stay, Stella begged. Papa, make her stay. Make her be my mum. Please. Gabriel stood slowly, never breaking eye contact with Harper. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. Ladies, I apologize for wasting your time, but I think my daughter has made her choice. The 3 women left in a flurry of indignant protests, but Harper barely heard them. She was too focused on Gabriel, who had taken a step closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar and smoke, and something uniquely him. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. Say the word, and I'll explain to Stella that... I love her, Harper interrupted. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. I know I shouldn't. I know I'm nobody, but I love her, Gabriel. And I can't leave her. I can't. Something broke in his expression. You're not nobody. I'm a waitress with $47 in my bank account. You're the woman my daughter chose." His hand lifted, hesitated, then gently cupped her cheek. His thumb brushed away a flour smudge she didn't know was there. "And she's not the only one who doesn't want you to leave." Harper's breath caught. "Gabriel, stay," he whispered. "Not as an employee, not as a nanny. Stay as part of this family, as Stella's mother, as my—" He seemed to struggle with the words. "As mine. You can't want—" "I want!" His voice was fierce now. "I've wanted since the moment you crouched down to meet my daughter's eyes in that diner. I've wanted since you held her while she cried. I've wanted every time I've watched you in my garden, in my home, making her smile. Making me feel things I thought I'd forgotten how to feel." "I don't understand," Harper breathed. "Then let me make it clear." He leaned closer, and she felt his breath on her lips. "Marry me, Harper Quinn, not for convenience, not for show. Marry me because my daughter loves you, because I—" His jaw clenched. "Because I'm falling in love with you too." The world tilted. Before Harper could respond, before she could even process what he'd just said, Stella's voice piped up between them. "Does this mean Harper is staying forever?" Gabriel and Harper looked down at the little girl whose tears had stopped, replaced by tentative hope. "That depends," Gabriel said, his eyes never leaving Harper's. "What do you say, Tesoro? Will you take a chance on us?" Harper thought about all the reasons she should say no. The danger, the impossibility, the fact that she barely knew this man. But then she thought about Stella's laugh, about Gabriel's hidden vulnerability, about the family they could become. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say yes to the unknown. "Yes," Harper whispered. Stella screamed with joy. Gabriel's hand slid into Harper's hair, and he kissed her. Not gentle, not tentative, but with all the pent-up longing of 2 months watching and wanting and waiting. When they finally broke apart, Harper was breathless. "Welcome to the family," Gabriel murmured against her lips. For real this time. And Harper realized that sometimes fairy tales do come true. They just look a little different than you expected. 3 weeks after Harper agreed to marry Gabriel, she learned that fairy tales always have a villain. The engagement ring on her finger felt foreign, a massive diamond that Gabriel had insisted on despite her protests. She'd moved into the mansion officially now, into a bedroom that connected to Stella's through a shared bathroom. Not Gabriel's room, not yet. He was taking things slow, respecting her boundaries even though the tension between them grew more unbearable every day. They were a family now, but they weren't family yet. Not completely. Harper was beginning to think Gabriel was waiting for something. Some sign that she was ready for more. The problem was she'd been ready since that first kiss in the kitchen. But every time she tried to bring it up, Stella would appear, or his phone would ring with business that couldn't wait, or Harper's own courage would fail her. On a Tuesday morning, everything changed. Harper had just dropped Stella off at her private school when the black car appeared in her rearview mirror. At first, she thought it was one of Gabriel's men. He always had someone following her now, for protection. But this car was wrong. Different. It didn't keep the usual respectful distance. It was getting closer. Harper's heart started to race. She pressed the gas pedal, but the car matched her speed. Her phone rang. Gabriel's number. "Turn right at the next light," his voice barked before she could say hello. "Now, Harper." She obeyed, tires screeching. "What's happening?" "You're being followed. Marco is 2 minutes behind you. Just keep driving. Don't stop for anything." "Gabriel, I'm scared." "I know, Tesoro, I know. But I've got you. Just trust me." She did. God help her, she did. The next few minutes were a blur of racing through red lights, sharp turns, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. The black car stayed on her tail, relentless. Harper's breath came in short gasps. This was real. The danger Gabriel had warned her about was real, and it was chasing her through downtown at 60 miles an hour. Then, suddenly, 3 SUVs appeared out of nowhere, cutting off the black car. Harper heard screeching tires, shouting, gunshots. "Harper!" Gabriel's voice was sharp in her ear. "Keep driving. Get to the house. I'm already on my way." She didn't remember the rest of the drive. When she finally pulled through the gates of the mansion, her entire body was shaking. She barely made it out of the car before her legs gave out. Strong arms caught her. Gabriel. He pulled her against his chest, one hand in her hair, the other pressed against her back. "I've got you," he murmured. "You're safe, you're safe." Harper buried her face in his shirt, breathing in his scent, trying to stop trembling. What was that? Who were they? Rivals. They know about you now. About the engagement. His voice was tight with fury. They know you're my weakness. Gabriel, I should have protected you better. I should have... Harper pulled back to look at him, and her heart clenched at what she saw in his eyes. Fear. Raw. Terrible fear. This man who feared nothing was terrified because of her. I'm okay, she said firmly. You got to me in time. I'm okay. This time. His jaw clenched. But they'll try again, Harper. They always do. And now that you're part of my world, you're a target. You and Stella both. The mention of Stella made Harper's blood run cold. Is she safe? I've tripled security at her school. She doesn't leave the building without 6 men surrounding her. He cupped Harper's face in both hands. But this is what I was afraid of. This is why I tried to keep my distance from you. Why I should have let you go when Stella first chose you. Well, you didn't, Harper said. And I'm not going anywhere. You should. You should run far away from me and never look back. Is that what you want? What I want doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Harper grabbed the front of his shirt. Gabriel, I'm not leaving. Not you, not Stella. So whatever you need to do to keep us safe, do it. But don't push me away. He stared at her for a long moment, something warring in his expression. Then he kissed her, desperately, hungrily, like she was the air he needed to breathe. When he finally pulled back, both of them were breathing hard. I can't lose you, he whispered. I've already lost too much. I can't. Harper, I can't. Then don't. She pressed her forehead to his. We'll figure this out together. That night, Gabriel called a family meeting. Harper sat beside him in his office while his top men reported in. The rival family, the Morellis, had been planning the attack for weeks. They'd seen Harper as an easy target, a way to get to Gabriel. We need to respond, one of his captains said. Show them we won't tolerate... No! Gabriel's voice was ice-cold. We don't respond with violence, not yet. First, we make it clear that Harper and Stella are untouchable. We increase security. We move carefully. Boss, if we don't hit back... I said no. Gabriel's hand found Harper's under the desk, lacing their fingers together. My family's safety comes first. Always. After the meeting, Harper stayed in the office while Gabriel made more calls. She watched him work, saw the weight of leadership on his shoulders, the impossible choices he had to make every day. When he finally finished, it was past midnight. He looked exhausted. Come to bed, Harper said softly. He looked at her, surprised. Harper, not like that. Not yet. She felt her cheeks heat. But I don't want to be alone tonight, and I don't think you should be either. Gabriel stood slowly, walked to her, pulled her into his arms. Are you sure? I'm sure. He led her upstairs, not to her room or his, but to Stella's. The little girl was fast asleep, curls spread across her pillow, nightlight casting soft shadows. Gabriel and Harper stood in the doorway, watching her breathe. She's everything to me, Gabriel whispered. And now you are too. I don't know when it happened, when you stopped being the woman I hired and became the woman I can't imagine living without. But here we are. Harper leaned her head on his shoulder. Here we are. If anything happened to either of you, it won't. You won't let it. You have a lot of faith in me, Tesoro. I do. She turned to look up at him. Because I love you, Gabriel Cassano. Completely. Terrifyingly. I love you. She felt him freeze, felt his sharp intake of breath. Then he was kissing her again, backing her against the hallway wall, his hands framing her face like she was something precious and breakable. Say it again, he demanded. I love you. Again. I love you. I love you. I love... He kissed the words right out of her mouth, and when they finally broke apart, both of them were shaking. My room, he breathed. Now. Unless you... Now, Harper agreed. They barely made it to his bedroom before they were kissing again, before his hands were in her hair and hers were pushing off his jacket. But when things started to go further, Gabriel pulled back, breathing hard. We don't have to... I want to, Harper said firmly. I want you, all of you, no more waiting. Harper, make me yours, Gabriel. Completely. Something primal flashed in his eyes. You're already mine. You've been mine since you crouched down to meet my daughter's eyes. Then prove it. He did. And Harper learned that falling in love with Gabriel Cassano wasn't the dangerous part. The dangerous part was how much she never wanted to leave. The wedding was supposed to be in 3 days. Harper stood in front of the mirror in her soon-to-be wedding dress, pinned and tucked by the designer, who'd been flown in from Paris. Stella sat on the bed, swinging her legs, chattering excitedly about being flower girl. Everything was perfect, which was why Harper should have known something was about to go terribly wrong. The call came at 2 a.m. Harper woke to find Gabriel's side of the bed empty. They'd been sharing a room for 2 weeks now, and she'd gotten used to falling asleep in his arms. She found him in his office, phone pressed to his ear, face white as death. "I understand," he said coldly. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. "Gabriel?" Harper's voice was small. "What's wrong?" He looked at her and she saw something that terrified her. Defeat. The Morellis. They've made their move. They have information that could destroy everything I've built, everyone I've protected. They're threatening to release it unless... Unless what? Unless I call off the wedding. His voice was hollow. They want you gone, Harper. They see you as my weakness. They think if they take you away, they can control me. Harper's blood ran cold. What kind of information? The kind that would put innocent people in prison, that would tear apart families. I've spent 15 years building a network that protects those who can't protect themselves, and they'll destroy it all, unless you leave me. Yes. Harper sat down slowly, her mind racing. So what are you going to do? Gabriel moved to her, kneeling in front of her chair, taking her hands in his. I'm going to choose you. I'm going to tell them to go to hell and deal with whatever consequences come, because I'm not giving you up. I'm not losing you. Gabriel, no. Yes. His voice was fierce. I lost my first wife to cancer. I watched her die slowly, watched Stella lose her mother, and I swore I'd never love again, never give anyone that kind of power over me. But then you walked into my life with your kind eyes and your stubborn pride, and your way of making my daughter smile. And I fell anyway. I fell so damn hard, Harper. So no, I'm not walking away from you. I don't care what it costs. Tears streamed down Harper's face. But those people who depend on you will be fine. I'll find another way to protect them. I always do. What if you can't? What if by choosing me you're destroying everything good you've ever done? Then that's my choice to make. Harper looked at this man kneeling before her, this powerful, dangerous man who was willing to sacrifice everything for her, and she knew what she had to do. No, she whispered. Gabriel froze. What? I won't let you give up everything for me. I won't be the reason good people suffer. She stood, pulling her hands from his. Call off the wedding. Harper, you said I always have a choice, Gabriel. This is mine. I choose to walk away. No. He stood too, his voice shaking. No. Harper, you can't. I can and I am. Because I love you. Because I love Stella. And because sometimes love means letting go. She was crying openly now. Tell them they win. Call off the wedding. Protect your people. I don't want to protect them. Gabriel's voice cracked. I want you. You can't have both. They stood in terrible silence, the weight of the impossible choice crushing them both. Then Stella's small voice came from the doorway. Harper, Papa, why are you yelling? They both turned to find the little girl standing there in her nightgown, clutching her stuffed bear, tears already forming in her eyes. Oh, baby, Harper breathed, moving toward her. We didn't mean to wake you. Are you leaving? Stella's voice was tiny, terrified. Is Harper leaving us, Papa? Gabriel looked like he'd been shot. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Harper knelt in front of Stella, taking her small hands. Sweetie, sometimes grown-ups have to make really hard choices. No, Stella screamed. She threw herself at Harper, wrapping around her like a lifeline. You can't leave, you promised. You said you'd stay forever. I know, but you promised. The little girl was sobbing now. You're supposed to be my mom. You're supposed to stay. Harper held her, tears streaming down her own face. Over Stella's head, she met Gabriel's eyes and saw the same devastation she felt. Then his phone rang. Gabriel answered it, his voice hard. What? He listened for a moment, his expression changing. Are you certain? More listening. When? A long pause. I see. Thank you, Marco. He hung up and looked at Harper with something like wonder in his eyes. What? She asked. The Morellis. Someone inside their organization just leaked every piece of information they had, including proof of their own criminal activities. The FBI is raiding their headquarters right now. They're finished. Harper blinked. What? How? I don't know. But we're safe. You're safe. He moved toward her, toward them, dropping to his knees beside where Harper held Stella. The threat is gone, Tesoro. You don't have to leave. I don't understand. Neither do I. But I'm not questioning it. I'm not questioning this miracle that gave you back to me. He cupped her face with one hand, wrapped his other arm around both her and Stella. Marry me, Harper Quinn, in 3 days. In front of God and everyone. Marry me and be my wife and Stella's mother and the love of my life. Say yes. Please say yes. Harper looked at this broken, beautiful family that had somehow become hers, at the little girl clinging to her, at the man who'd chosen her over everything. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, yes. Stella's sobs turned to laughter. Gabriel kissed Harper like she was air and he'd been drowning, and in that moment Harper realized something. Sometimes fairy tales do come true. Sometimes the girl from nowhere gets to keep the kingdom and the prince and the little princess who chose her. Sometimes love is enough. 5 years later, Harper stood in the garden of the Cassano estate watching Stella, now 10 years old, teach her little brother how to hunt for ladybugs. Gently, Luca, Stella instructed the 4-year-old. You have to be gentle or you'll scare them. Harper smiled, one hand resting on her swollen belly. Baby number 3 was due in 3 months. A girl this time, if the ultrasound was right. They were going to name her Grace. What are you thinking about, Tesoro? Gabriel's arms wrapped around her from behind, his hands settling over hers on her stomach. That I almost gave this up, Harper said quietly. That night, when I tried to walk away, but you didn't. We didn't. He pressed a kiss to her temple. We fought for this. For us. I still don't know who leaked that information to the FBI. You never found out? Gabriel was quiet for a moment. Actually, I did. About a year ago. Harper turned in his arms. What? Why didn't you tell me? Because it wasn't important. What mattered was that we were safe. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. But since you asked, it was Veronica. Veronica? The art curator from that night? The same. Turns out she was an undercover FBI agent. She'd been investigating the Morellis for years. When she witnessed that scene, when she saw Stella choose you, saw how much we loved you, she leaked the information early, burned her cover to protect you. Harper's eyes widened. She sacrificed her case for me? She said she saw something real that night, something worth protecting, that some things matter more than a case. Gabriel smiled. She was right. I want to thank her. I already did. On your behalf. Trust me, she knows. Stella ran up to them, breathless and excited. Mama! Mama, look! Luca found 5 ladybugs. 5! Harper's heart still swelled every time Stella called her Mama. That's amazing, baby girl. You're an excellent teacher. Luca toddled over, his dark curls, so like his father's, bouncing. Mama, da, look. Gabriel scooped up his son with one arm, keeping the other around Harper. I see, Piccolo. Very impressive. They stood there together, this impossible family that had formed from chance and choice and stubborn love. Harper thought back to that day in the diner when she'd been a broke waitress with $47 and no hope for the future. Now she had everything. Happy, Gabriel murmured in her ear. Harper looked at their children, at this man who'd given her a kingdom, at the life they'd built together. Happier than I ever imagined possible. Good, he kissed her softly. Because I plan on keeping you happy for the rest of our lives. And he did. Because Gabriel Cassano was many things, dangerous, powerful, feared. But above all, he was a man who kept his promises, especially the ones he made to the woman who taught his daughter to smile again, to the woman who'd chosen them when she could have run, to the woman who'd become the heart of his family, to Harper, his wife, his love, his everything. This story has come to an end. If it touched your heart in some way, leave your like and share it with someone who also loves emotional stories. New stories coming soon. Until next time.